Storm's End is a short flight from here. You have Baratheon blood from your grandmother, Rhaenys. And Lord Boros is an eternally proud man. You'll be honored to host a prince of the realm and his dragon.
So we can see there that that is her baby boy, her favorite son, you know, her little pup. You know, even the Boris Baratheon says, "Run, pup." And, you know, we saw a lot of foreshadowing in the episode of his death, you know, her closeness in him in the first episode. Whenever we see in House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones, a little bit too much closeness, you know somebody's going to die. You know something bad is going to happen. So we see that affection she shares with her son. And then what happens? Boom. He gets here to Storm's End, to the Baratheons, and he meets Aemond, and now Aemond wants the revenge that he's never gotten all his life. Aemond wants his eye. And I think what's interesting in this scene is Aemond, he calls him Lord Strong, which is, you know, he did that first. He's playing around. But remember, you know, the Strongs are at the Riverlands. That's the region they're in. So if he was going to call him a bastard, he would have called him Lord Rivers, right? That's another way of calling him a bastard. Calls him Lord Strong. But later on, he does go ahead and says bastard, and then he stops him from doing that. Now, let's talk about Aemond actually going ahead and killing him. So it's very clear that why did Vhagar stop listening to Aemond? Why did he stop listening to Aemond and go ahead and kill, you know, the dragon and what's his name? Lucaerys. Well, first of all, let's remember that Vhagar has had many riders. So Vhagar, in a way, they say the dragon is not a slave. You know, Rhaegar is hundreds of years old. I don't think he necessarily has that level of respect for Aemond. And I think another interesting dynamic here is the fact that the dragons are now at war with each other, which is funny because some of them will be their children, their offspring, that they're or their cousins or whatever. You know, the dragons being at war with each other. That's your boy, but like, what if that's your boy, and now because the Targaryens have split and they're divided, now you got to fight your boy? So it's interesting here to me. That was an interesting dynamic. But also when what's his name? When his dragon, Lucerys's dragon, you know, burns fire at the big Vhagar. Well, he's not listening to anybody. He wants revenge immediately. And I think that's what actually just did it. The fact that you're not going to tell me what to do. You're not going to tell me what to do. And the fact that, how dare you, especially like think about how small his dragon is. He's like a little fly. So of course, look how tiny he is in comparison to Vhagar. Vhagar is like insanely massive, insanely huge. You know, and so there, of course, but it's kind of crazy to him because he didn't intend for this, and he knows how much crap he's in now. He started a war. He single-handedly started the war, and it's so funny how they say when boys are always fighting and they tell you like, be careful, you might actually cause some irreversible damage. He killed his cousin. Regardless of whether he calls him a bastard or not, regardless of whether he stole his eye or not, he did not intend to kill someone that he's known since he was a child, his cousin. He grew up as cousins. So that was not an intention. And I don't think he's that vindictive. So he knows, like, not only has he killed someone that is his family, and yeah, they have these, like, this little beef, but they don't actually, death is a completely different thing. It's a final thing. So I don't think it's about, I think he was a shock that he actually went through and killed him. But in addition to that, he knows what that means for the rest of his family. He knows that this means there's going to be loss. He knows that this means there's going to be a war. And I think that's where he's having his regrets there, Aemond. He finally got his revenge, but was it worth it? And this death is obviously Rhaenyra's greatest loss, and we're going to see her transform into something else, because there's nothing like a mother that loses her child, but losing your child to a murder due to carelessness, and I don't know if she knows it's carelessness, she probably thinks it's intentional, but losing your child this way, it's gotta hurt. Like, it's gotta be more painful to her, the fact that she had the power to even end this war, not even necessarily end it, but strike the first blow, and she didn't take that opportunity. And Daemon is probably sitting there like, huh, I told you so. Because at the same time, that's another dynamic that needs to be understood. These are men of war, and it is times of war. So when they're pushing her to start this war, they know, because they know what war looks like. They know what it takes. But she doesn't know what it takes, and that's the parallel between her with Alicent. When I said in the last episode that Alicent is an idealist, and Alicent, she wants to move forward without causing a war. But all the men in King's Landing understands that people must die if they really want to affirm their throne, affirm themselves in that throne. Rhaenyra is also being this idealist, wanting to keep peace. And it's a level of, on both sides, between the men and the women, stupidity and naivety. And I say that with the men's side, because stupidity is the willingness to start a war as if war is something to just run into, right? It's a painful thing. But also with the women, also the stupidity is not wanting to start the war because you got to nip it in the bud, you know? And we see all the women always avoiding war, but the men are pushing us towards it. And then it's the boys that actually start the war. That's also an interesting dynamic.